Hey, Cookster here, and welcome to another video. In this video we're doing some more body work. This is another one of my masterclass bodywork videos. So I had to repair two dents in the back of this rear panel. One was here about 1/4 inch deep, pretty deep dent, and one over here a lot shallower. I don't have access to either one of them from the inside because of this rear panel here, so I had to pull them from the outside. So the deep dent I used my 40-year-old slide hammer, and the other one I used my body hooks, pull rods, I think is what they call them now. So both of these tools are 40 years old. I've used them in the body shop, and I've used them ever since. So these are both beginner friendly dents. I just can't access the back side, which is why I had to pull them from the front. So anybody just learning can do these. It may take you longer than it took me to fix them, but you can do this. So you'll see how the same pulling technique with two different dents, two different sets of tools, you're still pulling. Dents are same but different, and the tools are the same but different. We're going to pull the dents out, do the metal work, I'll weld the holes up. Don't freak out about drilling the holes. I do weld them up. So what you see now is the body filler blocked down and sanded and ready for primer. So in the next video, we'll prime it, we'll block it, we'll guide coat it, we'll get it good and straight and get it ready for paint. So as I said, this is part of my masterclass series I'm starting out, where I show you every step. I'll walk you through everything I do. I do little to no fast forwarding, maybe grinding and stuff. It's very repetitive. But I try to show you, what I'm doing. I zoom in, get up close, talk you through what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and try to teach you young guys, or you guys that don't know much about body work, try to teach you, how I do this. Now again, I've been doing this stuff for 40 years, so some of my methods are old school, but hey, old school gets the job done. I don't have a stud welder. I'm not going to buy a stud welder. That's why I use my slide hammer. I've used it for 40-something years now. For those of you that might be worried about the holes, weld them up and nobody will ever know you did this. So I also made a couple of mistakes doing my metal work in here. You'll see in the video, I'm human too. I make mistakes too, just like everybody else, believe me. That's enough yapping for now. Let's get into the video. Let's go. Well, here's a straight edge. That dent is almost 3/16 of an inch deep, and as you can see, it's bent. It's a 12-inch rule, and the panel is bent, sunk in nearly the entire 12 inches. You can see from almost here to way out here, we're sunk in. The area that caused this was right here. That's one thing a lot of young guys, mistakes they make when they try to analyze how to fix a dent is where to start. I should only really have to pull right along in here, and it'll take all this collapsed area out. Now there'll be still probably some wrinkles out here that we're going to have to wipe with filler. We'll probably have to wipe filler from, I don't know, here over to here. Basically that whole 12-inch rule to get this thing to block out and feather in, but we'll talk about feathering later. Alright, I'm sure I already said it, but if I didn't, yes, we're going to drill holes in this, and yes, we're going to use my snatch bar. Alright, so the first thing I want to do, I already showed you a fairly good close-up of this dent. So I'm basically going to just reverse how it got hit. That's where I'm going to start. That's kind of how I usually always start. Pick the worst damage and work your way out of there. So I'm going to drill a series of holes here. This is an 1/8 inch bit. The regular snatch bar that you buy, the drill bit you need for those screws is an 1/8 of an inch. Now, if you got something different, that's fine. What I have, I use 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to start. Now, the holes are probably a 1/2 inch apart, something like that. It's not a science, it's just kind of the way I do it. This is my snatch bar. This is my 40-year-old snatch bar. I'm going to start on one end. We run the screw in and try to get this, you got to get this bit tight. This is the one that keeps loosening up on me. But you screw it in. When you pull back on this hammer, you're pulling, and it's pulling the dent out. Now a stud welder works the same way, but I don't have a stud welder, and I'm not going to be buying a stud welder. You can pull these screws out just like you can pull a stud off. In fact, I think these things are actually probably tougher than a stud welder. And I could be wrong about that, and if I am, that's fine. I'm still using my snatch bar. Not overly aggressive pulls, just start pulling, and you'll be able to tell pretty quick by how much resistance you get how easily these things are going to pull out. So here we go. Now see that pull right out? That was very little pull on my part, very little. So that's actually a bit proud. Too high spot. So we're going to do some little light pulls along the rest of the seam. And I am over pulling this a little bit high, but I'm going to show you a trick for that in just a moment, how to fix that. So we're going to keep going here. Over pulling. There's really I mean, there's not a lot you can do about over pulling. It's going to happen, but we're going to fix it. Just hold on. And sometimes as you get closer to a crease, you do get more resistance. That's just the way metal works. So, I'm going to get a pull up here. Now, I don't think, oh, and by the way, these little, once you drill the holes and run the screw in here, it makes these little fish hook barbs. It will stick the snot out of you. Don't run your finger across these things right now, because they'll cut the crap out of you. Ask me how I know. Got to be real careful running your hands across these until you get them ground off or sanded or something. So anyway, that feels really good. I think we're in really good shape. I'll grab the straight edge here. I don't always do this, but I'll do it for your benefit. Now, you see it rocking? That's where we're high. You can see that, right? I definitely overpulled it right here in the middle, and I kind of knew that was going to happen, even a little bit towards the top. So what I want, my end goal here is for this dent to be about, well, anything's low, 30 thousandths, 60 thousandths. You know, in that range. 30 is fine. Just barely, even just barely, whatever you want to call this, barely. Just barely low enough to get some filler in there without it being a high spot. That's what we want. But right now, we're definitely too high. You can see that rocking. So hold on, I'm going to show you how to fix that. These are dent puller hooks, or whatever the Amazon decides to call them. If you watched my video on the 40-year-old dent that I repaired over here in the corner, I showed you about these. We just call them booger hooks. You can use them for anything you need a hook for, but they're made for dent repair, for auto body repair. So we're now high. So if I start beating on this with my hammer with no kind of backup, no kind of, basically without a hammer and dolly behind it, but you can't get in here, it's going to bounce, and you're going to wind up sinking this in more than you want. So what you want to do, you take your dent hooks, your dent puller hooks here, booger hooks, and we're going to start, and I'll start somewhere. Now we can pull out on the dent while we're driving in with the hammer, and it won't move on us so much. So I want to start tapping that high spot down. And I'm not hitting hard. I'm just doing pretty much the same work I'd be doing if I had a dolly back here, which obviously I don't. So when I pull these with the snatch bar, imagine a flat panel where my screw went in and pulled out. It made a little dome, a little mountain, we'll call it. And that's where that sharp burr is too. So that little high mountain, that's the first thing we're tapping down, and we're also tapping down where it was high. Now that is damn close. So the next thing to do is take the grinder and knock off these burrs and these high spots, and we can get a good feel for how it feels. This is 60 grit, by the way. Now I'm just making a wash pass over it to kind of see what I got. I'm not grinding anything heavy. I'm just doing, like I said, a wash pass. Now, we're still a little high. I can feel high spots all along this ridge. So again, I'm going to take my booger hooks here and put them back in the holes and just work alongside. And this time I'm going to let the panel kind of bounce in some. I'm not going to pull back as hard. I'll let it give a little bit. All right. That feels better. Yeah, that feels a lot better. Now, I am tempted to stop right there. Let's see what we got with a straight edge. That is 30 thousandths or less. Yep, we are done. We're not hitting anywhere. So let me take one more stab with the grinder. I want to make sure these little high burrs are ground off. Now I wouldn't normally use a straight edge. I know I can feel what I need to do, but for you I'm using a straight edge. there is one little high spot I don't like right down here. There's actually another dent right here I just found. Okay, that's another dent down there. Alright, well never mind, that's not a high spot, that's a dent. So when we had a dent come in up here, something also caught it down here and dented this bottom edge. It's about a 30 to 40 thousandths deep dent, so I'm not even going to touch that. What I will do is work the outer edges. Now I talked in some of my other videos before about dents. When you get a dent here, let's say I got a dent right here. Most times wherever there's a dent, around the outer edge of that dent, the metal will pooch up. It's very slight and very subtle, but it will do it. Not every time, but a lot of times. So I've learned in my numbers of years of doing this, most of the time, if you're going to work a dent, now like this dent right here, it's very subtle. I'm going to work the edge of the dent, which is right along in here. I'm not going to hit hard. I'm just going to work it down to make sure there's no high spot that bubbles up. There's probably nothing here for that to work on, but it's just something I do. It's part of my process, my mental process, that I just do it without even thinking about it. So that's just trying to hope to assure that there's no high spots out here on the edge of the dent when I wipe it. Yeah. And if you want to use a straight edge as a tool, by all means do it. It's a good tool. It'll definitely tell you a lot. Okay, we're good to go. I believe you can see the little gap. The biggest gap is right here about my thumb. See the air gap or the light gap or something? I think you can see the gap there. But that's about 30 to 40 thousand. It's not even 60 thousandths deep. So that's what we want. Just slightly low enough to get the filler in. Now I am going to weld the holes up. Now when I weld this up, it may shrink a little bit, and when it shrinks it may suck in a little. We'll see how bad it shrinks and how much it sucks in. This is a flat panel. We got a significant body line, shape here, and this minor one here. So this may not shrink much, or it may shrink a whole lot. It's a flat area. So anyway, we'll monitor it when we weld it. If it shrinks, we'll fix it. And I'm going to start on the outer two first. Outer four actually. If it does shrink on me, I can use this middle hole to pull it back out a little bit. It may shrink, it may not. I don't know. I'm fixing to find out. I know I've also talked about it before. MIG welding and stuff like this. Get your heat hot enough that you can get in there and get a burn and get off and get on and get off. Don't have it so cold that all you're doing is piling up weld bead and not doing any welding, and all you're doing is just putting more and more and more and more heat into the panel. You saw me blast that about 3 times and I got that hole welded up. Also, when I weld holes, I don't weld straight down. I weld at an angle. I pick one side of the hole and start on it and work my way back. It takes 3 or 4 blasts, maybe 5, you'll watch, to weld up an 1/8 hole like this. Usually that last blast I make is just to make damn sure there's no pinhole. I had that done in 3 shots. And the extra one at the end was just a insurance, I guess you would call it. Well, that took a little more because I got a little thin spot or something on it. Now let it cool and we'll see how much it shrank, if any. Very little, if any. It might have shrunk down just a tiny amount. Let me let it cool. We'll grind those welds down. I'm not going to weld the last hole up just yet till I see how it feels. This 60 grit disc is about wore out, so the edges are taking me longer to grind than normal. Okay. That that might have shrunk a tiny amount. It's still, I don't even think it's 60 thousandths. What I will do, and I've also showed this before, you can take just the booger hooks and pull with them. You don't have to use the snatch bar. So I let this hole open. I'm going to make one little pull here, just very light. If I pull hard, I'm going to make another mountain here. I don't want that. And I'm also making sure that the wire, that the booger hook itself, the wire, the line is in line with my dent. Don't, you know, pull across like this. You could do it. But what I'm trying to do, I'm trying to pull across this crease. So line your hook up with the crease. Now I already pulled this once, so now turn it around about 180 and do it again. And if you want, you can get a little leverage, but don't go caveman on this stuff like I've been saying. That pulled it out a little bit, just to the point where this spot right here is almost high. I could have left it alone. It wasn't even a 1/16 of an inch deep. A 1/16 is plenty fine for body filler, especially for good modern fillers. I'll give it one more little tug just for the hell of it. I probably just overdid it. Okay, that's basically a high spot now, but I think when I weld it, it's going to shrink a tad. So I'm going to tap it down just a tiny amount. Not much. Yeah. And weld that last hole up. Alright, there we go. Just double check it here for the hell of it. Yep, feels really good. Just right. And keep in mind this dent down here that I didn't realize was there at first. It goes all the way out to here, so we're gonna have to wipe filler, you know, across a big area to get this thing to feather edge. And we're gonna talk about that next when we get to feather edging. So here's a close-up. You can see the welds. You know, that's a little low spots in the weld. Nothing, not a thing wrong with that. If I can show you with a straight edge where you can see that gapping knot. Again, I don't know if you can see it or not, but it's not big at all. The most important part, other than not being a 1/4 inch deep, is not having any high spots. So anyway, the next step is to apply body filler. But I am going to prime this with epoxy primer. This black primer you see is epoxy primer that I had already primed when I was working over here on my cab corner, and I primed this as well. I knew I was going to come back and work this dent separate, so I taped it off, just like that one. This is also a snatch bar dent, but it's not nearly as deep or as big as this one. There's the gap before I weld it. That's less, I'm looking at it, that's less than a 1/16 for sure. It might look a little bigger on camera, but trust me, that biggest gap right there, that can't be but 30-40 thousandths. It's certainly not a 1/16. So when I weld it, it might shrink a little bit. So let me get it welded and I'll come back and I'll show you. I think what I'm going to do is weld the two outer holes up first, and then if they shrink, I'll still have room here to pull out with this one. So let's do that and we'll see where we go from there. Alright, I don't know if you can see that. The little gap is still about the same. Where am I at? Right here. There's hardly any gap in there. But the thing I'm checking, even especially if I was using a snatch bar, but even using these booger hooks, you don't want to pull the area out and have a high spot. You know, these things, the snatch bar especially, they make little mountains, I call them, little volcanoes, because that's exactly what it looks like. And they stick up and they're high. So when you pull the dent out, it even happened to me when I used the booger hook. You pull out and you usually get a little high spot, and that's why I tap down the areas after I pulled out to level them back down. And then I hit them with the grinder, and that kind of knocks the rest of that little volcano mountain off. So the thing you don't want to do is leave those high spots, so when you go to wipe your filler, you got high spots poking through. And that's why I'm using the straight edge. And this is something I never did in the body shop. I never did the straight edge trick. I didn't have to. I'm doing this to show you. So you can see, I think you can, we come across here, and that ruler is gliding right across. I'm not hitting the high spot and getting pooched off. That's what you want to make sure you don't do, is leave a high spot. So anyway, this area is now done. Now I don't like, when I weld, I don't like to leave. This is the overdue. This is the residue from the argon and the gas and the welding. I don't like to leave those dirty spots in there to prime over. So I take a wire brush, the way I do it, and wire brush over it. I'm just going to do that right quick off camera. I'm not going to worry about you seeing that. Just know I'm doing it. Alright, I got the rear panel all primed with epoxy primer. I want to take a moment to show you that, hey, I'm human too. I get in a hurry sometimes and I make mistakes. So I came out here to start work a while ago, and I looked at this dent and I thought, what the hell? I got to looking, I missed this bottom section down here being pushed in. I don't know what I was thinking or what I wasn't thinking when I did not fix that. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. Get my snatch bar back out. Fix that right quick before I put any filler on it. I don't know what I was thinking. I really don't. Alright, with this black primer, I hope you can see what I'm doing. So I am going to drill right down on this crease, and I will weld that back up, so don't freak out or anything. I don't want to pull too hard. Now I made a high spot right here. I've talked about that. When you pull with a snatch bar, it makes a little mountain, a little volcano shape. We're about to tap that back down. I'll take my hook tool, get the hole above, and I'm going to hammer on the lower hole right here. And I'm pulling out I'm pulling out on my hook to get some resistance this way, and I'm hitting the other way. Kind of like hammer on dolly, but not, but sort of same idea. Watch your fingers. I'm in a weird position here, so. I'm hitting pretty strong to do what I want to do with this metal. And again, watch these burrs when you use this snatch bar. It makes these little razor sharp burrs here. Be careful. Run your fingers across them. All right, let's tap on this one a little bit. Alright, that's way better. That's a little high. I'm fixing to take care of that, and so is that. So I'm going to tap this down a little bit. And all I'm really doing there is tapping down that little volcano that I formed, a little mountain. Okay, there we go. That's a little better. Let me show you what we have here. So here's the straight edge. You can see a little bit of gap right here. I don't know if you can see it. I was trying to use it against this black primer to give you some more contrast. There is a little bit of a gap right at this, like where the 6 1/4 mark would be. Whoops. I can't. Well, hopefully you can see it kind of right along in there. But it's nothing like it was. And then we go on up the dent. You can see where we're only, you know, 60 thousandths or so under. We're not hitting. There's no. I was hitting kind of right here, but I tapped that down. So we don't want any high spots. So where we wipe the filler, little high spots pooch out. We don't want that. But for now, I am going to go ahead and grind this down, weld these holes back up. This dent now is in much better shape to wipe the filler over. I don't know what I was thinking when I left it alone. I just don't know. Birds, this is my garage. When you weld places, they shrink. So if these areas have shrunk real bad, I got 3 holes here. I welded up 2 of them. If I want to make a little pull and pull out a little bit, do it while one hole is still open, or more, depending on how you want to do it. Whoops. That did suck in a little bit, not horribly, but it did. I'm going to take my hook here and just make one little pull. I'm not going to worry about trying to get it perfect or anything. Just a little pull. Just quite sucked in. And if that sucks in when it welds, it probably will. It should go right back down. Yeah, see, it's still not high, so we're in good shape. So here's what we got now. It did shrink a little bit when I welded it, so it's a little deeper here now than it was, but it's still, you know, less than 60 thousandths, way less than 1/8 of an inch, which is kind of your maximum for filler and, you know, real world body shop style applications. So I got to get this sanded down and get some more epoxy on here, then it'll be ready to wipe filler on this area. Alright, I'm about to wipe the filler. The green tape here is so I don't wipe filler up in the body crease up here or down here. I don't need filler in either one of these areas. And when I wipe, if filler gets down here, then I got to sand it all back out. I don't want to have to do that. So I put tape on here to protect it. And hopefully I won't be overly messy and get it all over everything. Alright, wiping filler. I've got a small spreader here, not my big wider one that I use on big stuff. So I'm kind of bearing down on the first coat to get it to. They say it helps control pinholes. Don't know that I've ever really have evidence that say it does or it don't, but that's how I've always done it. So I'll wipe the middle area first. This is a small dent here, so I'm definitely over wiping, but I want to get way outside of where I knew the dent was, and that's going to allow me to feather edge in. Don't try to wipe just that little bitty area in the center. That'll work you to death. It takes more filler this way, but you're going to get it done faster and easier in the long run. And you can see how my tape, I should have used wide tape. I just grabbed the narrow roll. So I'm just kind of smoothing it down. Not trying to get it perfect or anything, because you certainly can't and won't. And I mixed a little bit too much filler. That pretty much always happens. I'm just going out to extend my margins a little bit. Most of that's going to get sanded off. Now I will say this. This back panel is full of waves. So it's very possible. Oops, I don't want to get too much. It's very possible I'm going to wind up skim coating this entire back panel above the body line, this area here. But I want to fix these little dents first, like you would do it if you were in a shop or on your own project. Then I'll worry about skim coating the whole panel just for me later. That's just me trying to get everything laser straight. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. If you do, then by all means do it. But alright, let's let that dry. We'll come back and start working it when it's ready. Alright, if you watch some of my other bodywork videos, you know I like to use a cheese grater, or surf form tool is what it's actually called. We call them cheese graters, or tater graters in the body shop. You kiss the filler just right before it's completely solid, but before it's, you know, while it's still hardening, you can work it down, and it works real easily. It's perfect now. Well, it's actually a little bit still on the wet side. I'm just going to get started. And here, this dent is very minor, so I'm not doing much shaping here. So all I'm really doing is what I call knocking the sticky off. When you put filler on, that initial top layer got kind of a tackiness to it. I've always called it the sticky. So when you start sanding the filler, the first number of passes to knock the top edge off, it kind of gums your paper up a little bit. Now I've always used a surf form tool for shaping tater grater, cheese grater, because I like doing it. But it also knocks that top sticky edge off. So like if this was a big panel, like a door or a big fender, some big huge dent, I'd wipe it, walk away, and come back and shape it with my big air sander. But this is not that kind of a dent. You could do that with this, but it's not really necessary. And I'm not in a production environment where I'm worried about speed. So I'm just taking my cheese grater and just doing some rough shaping. I don't want to overcut. It's easy to do with one of these. I do it more than I want to admit to. And I'm just kind of rough shaping. Nowhere near the finished shape. I'm just knocking the worst of the lumps and the bumps in the filler off. The sanding we're about to do is actually what's going to shape it. And this takes practice to know when to stop, when you're not overdoing it. So when you're first learning, you're going to make mistakes. Don't be afraid to mess up. That's how you learn. So I think I'm about done here. It's very high in the middle. I got a big low spot. This is where the dent was. And that's probably about, I'm assuming that's probably about finish level or so. This out here on each side is high. But I'm not going to try. I could take the time to try to get it down perfect with the tater grater, cheese grater. It certainly is possible to do it that way. But you do risk overshaping, overcutting. And I don't want to do that if I don't have to, especially on a smaller dent. And also, while the filler is still setting up, I'm going to go ahead and pull my tape. That'll knock this filler off while it's good and pliable. If I let it dry completely hard, it will still work. I'm just doing it now because I can. Come on. So you can see how it left my edges up here clean. That filler would have been stuck and I'd have had to sand that off if I hadn't used the tape. Now I should have used a wider tape. I should have used 1.5 or 2 inch. And I just grabbed the narrow tape and used it that way. But anyway, so this has got to dry. When it's ready to block sand, we'll come back, and I guess I'll go ahead and talk about it now. So I always start with 40 grit, or this is 36 or 40. This is 3M paper. This happens to be 36 is what I can get and to stick on for my DuraBlock. So I'll start with 36, I'll get it straight, and if it takes me wiping it once or 5 times, I'll get it good and straight before I ever touch it with 80 grit. 80 grit's my last blocking on filler to get it the last little bit of straightness and the sand scratches out. For me personally, 80 grit's where I really start to feel it get shaped up and get smooth, and I can really start to feel the final shape. Here on basically a flat panel, a flat repair, 36 grit it and then 80 grit it, and it shouldn't be any complications. Alright, just like when you use a tater grater, when you start sanding, you can sand the filler before it's completely hardened up, and it does make it easier to sand. But you can't sand it too early, because if you do, when you start sanding, your filler will gum up and you can't get the filler out. That's too early. But if you can sand it without it gumming up, like it is now, see, it's still not fully hardened. I can tell by the way it's working. But I can go ahead and start sanding. And I'll get a little bit of load up. You can even tap it on a piece of metal, or I'll use an air blower. Let me show you. Or take an air blower, blow it out. Whatever works for you. I've done both methods and they both work fine. So what we're trying to do here is we don't want to sand like this. Now in this particular dent, I could turn my block and sand like this, because I've got 2 edges here for my block to ride on. Picture a trolley. Where's my hand? Picture a trolley on a railroad track. So the 2 rails, that's your guides. You can't sink any deeper in the middle than the 2 edges. So I could do this, but I don't like to do it because it's just not the way you do it. You block sand in the crisscross, making X's. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just going across like this and like this. And when I get down to the edges, my rails here, we'll call them, hopefully we won't see anything low in the middle, and that'll kind of indicate to us that it's flat. So I want to start sanding till I start seeing the metal or my edges cut through, and we'll see how good we do with the filler here. Now you can see this dark spot right here. I hope you can see that on camera. That's still low. As long as you can see these low dark spots, you're still low. And the goal is to get the 2 edges feather edged, and I'll talk about that when we get that far. We're not there yet. Keep in mind, I wipe this filler really heavy. It's very high, so it's going to take a while to cut it all back down. Yeah, I'm starting to cut through now. See this edge right here? So we got to start watching it. You don't want to cut through your epoxy primer if you can at all help it. It happens, and it's going to happen, but you try not to do it. Now since I'm starting to cut through here and here, I'm working more in the middle, working that down. Working the bottom. See, I'm cutting through at the bottom now too, so we're getting there. So I'm just working out here on each edge now. Alright, see now I'm starting to cut through. I want to stop. That's my epoxy primer showing through. Let's get it out here on this edge. And by the way, I'm not wearing a mask, so I can talk to you, so don't yell at me about not wearing a mask. Okay, we've cut through pretty much the whole way across. Now, see that little strip of filler left right there? That's where the panel edge starts to turn over. We got to sand that back off no matter what. That's just part of it. Now, up in the middle, I'm getting the feeling that this is a little bit low. I've sanded pretty well down as much as I want to sand, and we still haven't hit metal here. This might be a low spot, Mr. Haney. This might be a low spot in this body crease, and I would not be surprised at all if that's the case. And I've still got a low spot right here. Let me very gently address this filler on the edges. I'm just in fact, let me switch to a piece of hand sand. Take a piece of 36 here, it's about wore out, so it doesn't cut quite so hard, aggressively, and knock this filler off this edge. We got the same thing on top, but the top I'm gonna use a block since it's a flat area. I'm just gonna go along here real easy. I know I'm doing straight line, but I'm sanding the body crease. That's a whole different technique than like sanding the block sanding or whatever. I'm not sanding hard at all. I'm just going to, whoops, that's a big knot right there. I didn't know that was there. You can't see it, but I can sure as hell feel it. I got to come back and fix that one day. So now I want to feather edge the two ends. In a nutshell, it's where your filler runs out and you get back into your straight panel. There's got to be a transition between the filler, let's say it's high and it's up here, and your base panel is down here. You've got to get that transition where it's just perfectly across the two planes or in plane or in alignment. Right now my filler is still high. See this dark spot right here? That's where when I sand across, kind of like guide coat would be. When I sand across, I'm still proud of my surface here. And on this side it's the same thing. So I want to feather edge down, and you can see feather edging as much as you can feel it. Because when it feather edges in, and I'll show you when we get it, the sanding, it'll just fade out into nothing. If you wind up having a deep dark hole or a circle or a line or a ridge, that's not feathered. And I've got some of my other videos, and my video on feather edging specifically where I talk about that in more detail. Well, let's just see what happens here. So I'm just going across here, doing a crisscross. Just watching and seeing what's going on. And yeah, I can see it as much as anything, so I'm watching to see what it looks like, to see if it feathers or not. Yeah, see the line starting to kind of go away, but it's still there. We're not there yet. And I said earlier, I may wind up wiping this entire panel. This entire back panel has got ripples in it. See, it's trying to feather now. See how it's starting to cut into the filler? And that deep dark line is gradually sanding away. So it's trying. I think that's a little dent right there. So I think for the purposes of what we're doing, there's a ripple out here. I can already feel it. There's a big bump right here where there's the dent, this big old dent here I got to fix. Made this area push up, so I really can't feather this correctly. So we're going to assume for this video that this edge out here is feather edged properly, even though I know it's not because of this dent. Just ignore that. So there, that would be a good feather edge. Just a nice smooth transition, no big lines or bumps or anything. I'm going to do the same thing on this side over here. Remember, I got this filler up here that I'm not sure about yet. Yeah, see how we're hitting metal or primer? I believe I can go ahead and sand this off, or maybe not. It's coming off. The trick is I don't want to undercut if it needs to stay in there. Now, starting to feather up high down here, I still got to keep working. And I can already see Yeah, this whole panel is warped. Or this is not feathering out here like I want it to. And it's because this panel is not straight. We look good in the middle. I do have a low spot here where I didn't get enough filler in it. And we're going to pretend that's feather edged. There's a knot right here. That knot up here is also right here. I tried to pick a dent that I could fix in one little area back here, and I just keep getting snowballed. Huh. Well, same thing might happen to you too. So for the sake of fixing this one dent, there's a low spot here that needs some more filler. We're going to call this feather edge even though it's not. Let me knot right here is bugging me. I'm going to go ahead and knock this knot down. Just pretend I didn't do this, or maybe I'll show it. When that knot pooched out, it pooched it out right here too, and that's really bothering me. Down here, that's better. I may have got it right there just with a few hammer blows. It doesn't feel bent or dented. Might be able to get that out with primer, with blocking. That feels pretty good right there. Now, as far as right here goes, I don't know about that. That's the high spot where I cut the primer off because it was high. That's close. But like I've been saying in all my other videos, I'm going to have to fix this dent here and wipe over in, well, you can't see that. This dent over here has got to be fixed and wiped into this one. All this big area's got to be wiped together. Alright, here's what we have. Here's the spot where it's still low. You can tell because not only is it a dark spot, there's no sanding marks in here. My sandpaper never touched that area. That's a big low spot. Not enough filler. You can probably go back and watch when I wiped it if you want to. I remember seeing a big low spot right there in my filler work that I should have done a better job of filling that in, and I didn't do it. Just, it's on me. In the bigger picture, this did feather. This is a nice smooth transition. There is a line, but that's the line in the filler. It's not a hard deep line in a big deep solid black line here like it would be if it did not feather. This end out here is a little worse. See there's an area here where basically the sandpaper never hit, and see right there, that's a low spot too. And right there, it's just it was feathering up here. That's a nice smooth feather, but right here, this is not. You'll learn to be able to spot it just like I can. It's just experience. In the middle, it's feathered real nice. Now I was talking about before, here's that big dent out here on the side of the cab that I was going to fix later. That knot I knocked down was right here, which also, this was pooched out, made this also pooch out. That's where I tapped that back down. And I've got a low spot right here that I don't like. Even though I feathered right here, if I feel across this little area right here, this entire area right here is low. And again, I just talked about it being feathered when really in reality it's still low. There's still a big deep dark spot here. And I know I'm probably confusing you, and if you are confused, I'm sorry. I'm trying to explain the best way I can without you actually being here. So to fix this dent here 100% correct, I've got to wipe all the way into over here, which I can't do because I got a dent out here. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to push my next wipe over to about here. So anyway, I'll come back and show you my next step here in just a moment. Let me say it again. This is normally not how I would do this, but I'm doing it for the sake of this video. And I mixed up too much filler as I always do. I am going to lightly skim coat this area because I know how this filler, I know how filler works down, and it's really hard to feather edge in the middle of a filler patch. And I'm going to have to wind up redoing this work all over again. So I'm torn here on doing it the right way or doing it for the video. Okay, I'm just going to skim across here. I should bring it further on across, honestly, because I know it's going to feather better that way if I do it that way. I'm doing this for the benefit of the video, knowing that in the end I'm going to have to redo all this, and that really goes against my grain, but it's okay. It's a video for you guys, so let's start doing some rough shaping. I'm just starting to block it and get it, you know. And the thing you want to do here, don't over sand it. Don't get on it too be aggressive. When I stop seeing the two panel edges here, these two lines, I want to really back off. And I already kind of know that my edges out here aren't going to feather the way I want them to feather. And I'm going to just live with it and walk you through it. As I say, I'm paying attention to my edges. We're starting to cut through down here. So I'm going to kind of shift to the top edge now. I'm trying to get that to cut on down. And we're still doing the crisscross, obviously. Alright, we're starting to cut through. So I want to be very careful now not to overcut. Not pressing too hard, I'm not pressing deep, I'm just letting the sandpaper do the work. Come across here and feather. Now out here on the edge, I'm gonna do my best to feather it down just like you guys will do it at home. Knowing that again, I'm gonna re-white this whole panel. So, anyway. Cutting through strong up here, so we are definitely done up top. I'm going to knock this filler off. And then we'll come on down here and do this little area at the bottom. This is the body crease at the bottom. You want to get it cleaned off. Alright, let's work this edge over here a little bit. I've already said this is normally where I would stop, because I'm not feathering in the way I want it to feather, and that's because this panel edge is got a curve to it. But we're going to ignore that for now. Got a little spot right here that's acting a little goofy. Doing the crisscross here. I'm done back here blocking, except for this feathering out here. That looks better. Now let's feather out here if we can. So far he's trying to feather decently right there. The big dents right there, big knot or big low spots right there. So I can't feather it, I don't believe, perfectly. I'm going to stop with the 36. We are very close to being feathered in for what we're doing here. So you want to get this feather on in. That looks better. Alright, see how it's kind of feathering out here? I'm not going to bring you in close here because I'm not happy with this. So it is feathering in the curved panel. And let's just stop talking about that. Got some 80 grit. We're going to work it down, smooth it on down. We're not doing a lot of straightening here. Basically all we're doing is smoothing out the sand scratches and getting that final area straight feathered in. See a little hole, little dip right there? That's not feathered. So we'll try to work that on down. Now again, I've got a dent out here I'm trying to ignore for now. Yeah, that's a low spot. I can't fix that up. Now let's see if I can feather this edge. That's feathered in okay. Alright, so you saw through the magic of editing that I also worked a very deep dent here. This whole corner right here was pretty much caved. I don't like to use the word caved in, but it was driven in, hell, at least an inch, maybe more than that. So I went ahead and fixed it off camera because I had to. I had to get this corner repaired so I could wipe my filler into it and knock down a couple of high spots. So in one of my masterclass videos I have planned is repairing this corner. So that's another upcoming video. I hope you guys will stick around and watch that one when it comes out. If you want to see a really nasty looking dent get repaired, here's one right here. Okay, we're good and straight here. As far as feather edging goes, see this little dark hole? That's a low spot. I didn't get enough filler out here, but as I said, this little high shiny spot, that's a high little ripple in this dent that was out here. I didn't wipe filler all the way out here into it, so I was not going to be able to feather this down all the way. It's feathered right here. The edges are feathered. When you see this gradual fade out, that's feathered. Dark spots, lines, holes like that, that's not feathered. You do not want to leave the edges of your filler like that. That's what causes what I call a butthole. You know, big low spot. Out here on the end, we're feathered pretty well. And again, I'm not happy with this because I know this panel is sunk in. So I feathered in with the panel. In other words, the panel's got a curve to it. I feathered it with the panel. It's not laser straight feathered. It's feathered to match the minimal curve of this back panel. I hope I'm trying to say it where I hope that makes sense to you. So if you guys are fixing this dent at home and you weren't worried about laser straightening this panel, you're done. Ignore this little area here. You're feathered in on both sides. Now it's time to prime. But I'm not going to go ahead and prime this and block it down for you here. I'm going to wipe this whole rear panel here because I want to get it straight. That bowl in it's just bugging me. So, I mean, I'm using the term laser straight because it's a good term people understand. So it's definitely overkill. If you don't want to do that at home, you don't have to. You can feather it in like I just did and you can make it look good. You may have to kind of work the panel and see it as you're blocking. But that's feathered in and you'd be fine. So that's the end of the video. So you see here through the magic of editing, I went ahead and wiped this entire rear panel across here to get it straight. I've already explained why. I couldn't let it go the way it was. It just didn't sit right with me, so I wiped the whole panel, and now it's good and straight, and I'm happy. And if you have one of these, you know, you do it your way. You can feather into the dent. I kind of showed how to do it. You just got to feather with the panel, or you can do what I did and wipe the whole thing and get it good and straight. It's up to you. Either way is fine. You pick the method that makes you happy and suits your project. So the next video on this repair will be when we prime it, and I'll guide coat it, and we'll block it. We'll block it with 180, get it good and straight. Sand scratches out. We'll 320 it. We'll get it ready for paint, or ready for your final, you know, sand when you get ready for paint. So look for that video coming soon. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I taught you something. I hope you learned something, especially if you're a new guy, if you're just learning. I'm trying to teach you guys here these masterclass videos. I've got a handful of them still in my mind to do, so I hope these things get some views, and I hope you enjoy them, and as long as you're watching and I'm getting some positive feedback, I'll keep doing them. The hour to hour and a half, I got one that's 2 hours long. That's a big investment for me and for you, so I need to know from you guys, do you guys like this stuff, and let me know if you do or you don't, and we'll keep going forward. So anyway, be sure and do all the YouTube stuff, like, comment, subscribe, notification bell, share it around. Your girlfriends, ex-wives, your enemies, your buddies, your in-laws, it doesn't matter. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Y'all come back now, you hear? Happy dent work repair. Go fix something. Bye.